Our first two guests are Steve Blake, author, lecturer, taught at University of Hawaii and at Stanford, and Sarah Taylor, author of Vegan in 30 Days, and you have a certificate from Cornell University attesting to your expertise in the vegan diet, and you have written a book called Vegan in 30 Days.
Yes.
So why don't we start off and ask you, what is a vegan? What's a vegan?
Well, you know, there are actually a lot of different definitions of vegan, but the way I like to describe a vegan is somebody who does not eat or use any kind of sentient being or their products, which is different from a vegetarian. And many people ask this question, what's the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan? And as far as diet goes, a vegetarian doesn't eat any type of flesh, including meat, poultry, or fish, but a vegan won't eat meat, poultry, fish, or their products, which basically means dairy and eggs.
Okay, so just in a nutshell, what do vegans eat?
You know, that's another good question, because people say, I've had people say to me, well, if you're not eating meat and dairy and eggs, what are you eating? And there's, you know, we think fruits and vegetables is what's left over, but first of all, there's a huge number of fruits and vegetables that we may not have tried if we just stick to our favorites. There's also countless types of beans and grains that I never knew about until I became vegan, and I started getting bored eating the same 3 dishes over and over, and I started looking for new types of foods. And when you uncover these new beans and grains that you weren't aware of, you realize that it's just an incredible amount of food that's left over. So it boils down to beans, grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds.
And you have been vegan for how long?
11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
And you come up with interesting and flavorful combinations of food that keep you interested in being vegan.
I do, and I'll be the first person to admit I don't like to cook, and I'm not particularly good at it either.
We'll do that later.
Yeah, mine's really a how-to-go vegan book. Vegan
Yeah.
in 30 Days. It does have a handful of great recipes in the back. Thank you.
There we go.
Handful of great recipes in the back that, true to my style, are easy and flavorful. But I don't enjoy cooking. And so I look for recipes that are quick and have a lot of flavor that I don't have to think too hard about. And I can make in bulk, so I don't have to cook every day.
And how would one go about going from eating everything to being vegetarian to being vegan? How would you recommend that somebody goes that direction if they choose to?
I like this question a lot, because one of the biggest questions I get from people is that they've heard really compelling information, just like we heard from Angel and Home a moment ago, and they're really interested in the idea of going vegan, but they're completely overwhelmed by the idea because they can't imagine what they would eat and how they would live in a society where meat and dairy are so prevalent. So the first thing I like to tell people is that the overwhelmment at the idea is so much more in our heads than it actually is in practice. It's very easy to eat a vegan diet once you've taken a month or two to learn about some of these new grains and vegetables and beans and things. And it's actually very easy to eat out at restaurants and things as well. One last thing I'll point out is if you worry about missing your favorite foods, there are incredible what I call transition foods, vegan foods that will transition you from a meat-based or dairy-based diet into a healthy vegan diet. So, you know, fake sausages and meats to go on your pizzas and fake cheeses that they didn't used to be good 10 years ago to 11 years ago when I went vegan, but now they're really amazing.
Okay, so here's a question that I've got for you. Do you really think that one diet is for everyone? Do you really think that it suits everyone to be vegan? Because from my experience, and I'm going to ask this question in a couple different ways from both guests, because to me this is very crucial. There are many people that I know, people who are well-educated, sensitive, spiritual people, who will say that they don't feel as good eating that way, that they feel better eating meat. And they do choose to eat organic and all of that. What would you say to that? I'm curious, because there does tend to be a little bit of a sense of one size fits all, it should be for everybody. My personal opinion is I'm not so sure about that, but I'm wondering what you have to say.
I think that it very much depends on the person, but the caveat I would say is that if you look at the data, and specifically the medical data, which I know Steve will be talking about next, all of the meat-based and dairy-based and egg-based foods are very, very unhealthy for the human body. And so I understand that somebody may feel better if they're eating meat or eating a little bit of dairy, but I would really challenge them to not only try the vegan diet to see if that's true, but to make sure they're eating a healthful vegan diet to see if that's true. Because it's common that people will decide to go vegan and they get all gung-ho about it, but they don't take the time to try new recipes and really eat a balanced vegan diet with lots of different foods, and then they don't feel well. And they say, I did not feel well on the vegan diet, but they were not eating a healthy, well-balanced vegan diet.
Well, the people I know actually were, because they were very educated and they still felt better eating the other way. So I guess it's just, I'm going to press on this a little bit because I'm not so sure that one diet is for everyone. And, you know, we'll talk more about that, though. We'll talk more about it. But how would somebody in a non-supportive situation, they want to be vegan, you know, their family doesn't support them to be vegan, what do they do? And what do they do when they go out to a restaurant? You touched on that, but...
Yeah, there's a lot of social issues like that with going vegan, and going out to restaurants, I think, is actually almost a non-issue these days because so many restaurants either have a vegan item on the menu or you can easily ask the waiter or waitress. They almost always know what it is now, certainly the chefs do, and so you can simply ask for something vegan. If you don't want to make a scene, you can call ahead and just tell them you'll be coming in. But the question about family being unsupportive, I think, is a really important one because I think that might be one of the biggest reasons that people don't go vegan, is that they're worried about how their family is going to react or being alienated at family events or Thanksgiving dinner or something. And what I would say to that is that I think, and this is my personal philosophy, is that I think it's very important to respect people's choices, which means that if you decide to go vegan and you're really gung-ho about it and very sold on the reasons, that you need to respect other people's decisions not to go vegan. And in return, you can turn around and ask them to respect your decision to go vegan as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And I also think that when you set a great example, there's no better way to convert other people to veganism because they start seeing, well, I didn't think that Steve was going to stick with it, but he has, and a year later he looks better than he did 10 years ago, and he's happier and healthier and more energetic. So be respectful of everyone's decisions and set a great example.
I think that speaks volumes because the truth is that there's so many people who can't even relate to it, and they look at somebody like you or anybody who's on the panel and they'll say, they are some healthy, good-looking people, and they've been vegan a long time. It's working for them.
Yes, and if they knew how old Angel is, they would be amazed. She told me today, and I thought, wow, she looks fantastic, 20 years younger than her age.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so one other thing I just want to ask you. I know for some people, you know, giving up cheese or certain things is a little, I think you addressed that. There are good substitutes, right?
Yeah, but I would love to say something about cheese if I could, because many people say, well, I would love to go vegan, but I could never give up cheese. And it could be some other dairy product, but I will tell you, I went vegan quite on accident by the same book that Angel mentioned, Diet for a New America. I thought it was a diet book so I could lose some weight, had no idea what I was getting into, and the next day I went vegan, literally. And before I went vegan, my 4 food groups were Swiss, Havarti, cheddar, and chocolate.
You were heavy in the cheese.
I loved my cheese. There's no doubt about it. All my dairy products. I mean, I lived on them. And what I will say is there's a little secret about the vegan diet that many people don't realize. And that is that if you go on a healthful vegan diet that's not only vegan, but it's also, you know, light on all the salts and sugars and fats, your taste buds will revert back to their natural state before you started inundating them with all of these foods. And once your taste buds go back to their natural state, then you find yourself in this position where foods that used to be just okay, like apples or corn, yeah, they're fine, they start to explode on your tongue and you crave them, you want them, and then it becomes effortless to be a vegan. I do not have good willpower. People think, vegan for 11 years, she must have the willpower of a saint. I certainly don't. It just becomes effortless when you